I'm Carole Macdiarmid. I'm from English for Academic Study, and we're in the School of Modern Languages and Cultures, and I'm with Anna Rolinska, my colleague. This is about our Teaching English for Academic Purposes course. I'm the course convener and academic lead, and Anna was our e-learning lead. We actually have someone in-house who's really, really helpful. Vicky and the BOLD team and Nigel, various people helped as well, but we had Anna. Okay. English for Academic Study, if you don't know, we support students with academic English before they come to the university and during the university, mostly international students whose first language is not English, but we also work in teacher education, and that's what the Teaching EAP course is about. This is what we're planning to do, tell you a little bit about the online course, and mainly with the focus on how we transition to online learning. Because this had its roots in a face-to-face master's option. We'll talk about some of the design, the delivery, and a little bit of the experiences for ourselves and our students. The last assignment came in on a Monday, so this is just the end of the very first time we've run the course. We've got a couple of ideas for future developments. So as I said, the course started originally as an option on our MSc and our MEd TESOLs, Teaching English to Speakers of Other Languages. We wanted to make an online course, partly because in EAS, we recruit a lot of teachers every summer for our pre-sessional, and we know there isn't very much out there in a master's level specialism in our field. We wanted, within EAS also, we have a commercial remit, so it's commercial standalone course. We know some of our part-time students, particularly on the MEd, would like a flexible option, so that will be available from next year. We also work on various transnational initiatives, mainly in China at the moment, and we wanted some units available for teacher education there. Okay. This is our picture for our homepage. Okay. When we started, Anna was our guide, and she was saying, so what are the strengths of your face-to-face course? What is it that you want to preserve? And we were saying, well, it's very interactive, it's collaborative, Anna, okay, but it works in our context. We need teachers to be getting involved in teaching and learning, and also modelling what we want them to do with our students. To learn a language, you need to practice and you need to be engaged. Okay. We have very strong theory-practice links because we're very applied, and we need something that will get teachers to think like university teachers and think in academic English, but also be able to use it in their practice. And we already had quite a structured course, but based around the weekly seminar. We had pre-tasks with reading, possibly a forum posting, lots of group interactive, collaborative work in the seminar, and post-tasks. That cycle had developed from years on our TESOL programs with students saying, what do I do when I'm not in class? So we worked out things that they could do, but that would support their learning. Okay. Anna.
Okay. I need to use the microphone because of my throat. So as Carole said, we kind of thought about the kind of a unique selling point, if you like, okay? And then we tried to think about how these strengths of the face-to-face module can be transferred to the online environment. And we thought that the principles of social constructors lend themselves quite well to facilitating such a course, and it was quite important that the human element, it's not just the software, it's not just the hardware, but the liveware. So the students and the tutors, the lecturers, it was important for us to create opportunities for establishing contact, and in order to facilitate that collaboration interaction, which we believe on that particular course was important. When we also thought about the scaffoldings, which on the face-to-face course was very structured, but then in an online kind of by nature asynchronous environment, the scaffolding had to be distributed in slightly different ways. And then we, taking all that into account, we thought which technologies about the affordances, which technologies kind of facilitate what we wanted to achieve in an online classroom. And we also thought that the induction unit or the orientation week was important as well in order to set the scene properly. So how did we do this? So in terms of humanizing the course, so adding that human element, we started in the first week with introductions, and we used the Padlet, and that was quite important. I will explain later when talking about the induction unit. We actually have an example, screenshot, of the Padlet. So that was a really good way of everybody getting to know each other. And the recent changes to the Padlet were very useful. What I mean by the changes is that the fact that you are now able to comment on the Padlet contributions, which was not possible in the past. So that allowed the students and the tutors to engage in the dialogue on matters related to the course, but also just on a kind of a very basic person-to-person level. Just back. Okay, then we also had, with Nigel's help, we also created introduction videos for each unit. So again, I've got a screenshot here. Okay, so that's Carole introducing her unit. And those videos were a nice departure or starting point for each unit. And in the video, the lecturer responsible for that particular unit would talk about what the unit covers. So it was a nice, easy introduction to the week ahead. We also had regular webinars. I believe we had 5 webinars over the course of the course, and on top of that we had the introductory webinar as well. We used Big Blue Button, we'll talk about it later. We also established weekly office hours, and I think there were a few slots available during the week with one of the 3 lecturers responsible for the course. This was to kind of cater for the different time zones in which our students were based, and to make sure that nobody was missing out. And we also, early on, already at the design stage, we talked about how to manage our presence online and how to be, let's say, present at the kind of a right level, not to be under-present or over-present. So we had discussions about that early on. So, okay, Carole.
Okay, so as I said, we had a weekly cycle of work, and we had to adapt this so that students could work when they wanted to. Everyone in our course was working, and they were in different time zones. Some were working in the Gulf, so they wanted to work at the beginning of the weekend. Others wanted to work at the end of the week, so we had to work out ways to manage that. I think we've still got some work with some things to do with that. We wanted to make sure that we could scaffold the work and that students got feedback in a timely manner without us having to always be there and without there always having to be interactions. That we had a balance of tasks and activities. Vicky led a curriculum design workshop where we looked at different types, so ones for acquisition, for discussion, for production, and tried to make sure we had a mix of these in each unit of work. And we had milestone activities at the end of each week. These were not compulsory, they were highly recommended, but they also reflected the assessment tasks that they would do, and students got feedback on those. Okay, so this is how the front of a unit looks. There's an introductory video there. Okay, there's the intended learning outcomes, the organisation. We had themes for each part of the units, nice little picture, and then it was navigable.
There were 3 lecturers leading that course, and each lecturer obviously has a different or slightly different teaching style, and the way they deliver materials might be also different. So when moving the course to the online environment, we thought, how do you preserve the unique voices of the lectures, but in a way that the whole narrative of the course is coherent and logical? So that's why, the classroom, on the face-to-face classroom, there's a lot of interaction, there's a lot of kind of little chunks of input, and then perhaps brainstorming, eliciting, etc., students having a discussion, etc., etc. If you move that online, then it's very easy to lose the the logic, the coherence, and it might be too bitty, too fragmented, and it's very easy for the students to get lost. And obviously we cannot really provide 24/7 support for the students to answer any question instantly. So what am I supposed to do with this? So that's why it was important to kind of streamline the way the content is given to students and the way the tasks are integrated into their contents. So that's why we chose, for example, every unit was, so that's why the the aesthetic elements of the course were important, and also it was important to structure in such a way that the students quickly became familiar with the format. So as Carole said, we decided to use the book for the kind of input and presentation of the tasks. That was mostly because it kind of book. You can go through it, you know, step by step in a linear fashion, but you can also jump from one section to another. So that meant students could access the material, browse it in a flexible fashion. We had video lectures, as Carole said, and we had a couple of Camtasia lectures from the lecturers themselves, and we're hoping to get maybe more of them in the future. Early on within the units, we often use quizzes and learning objects which provide feedback kind of in an instant fashion, and that meant that, for example, students didn't rely on the lecturer to confirm that the answer is correct. The feedback was kind of, we tried to make the feedback as personalized as possible. I mean, maybe not personalized, as informative as possible. What we mean by this is that it wasn't just saying that, you know, this answer is correct or incorrect, try again, but actually explaining why the answer is correct or the answer is incorrect with links to maybe further resources, further reading. So that meant that these kind of maybe lower order thinking skills to do with retention, memorizing something, kind of getting to grips with terms. That meant that I mean, obviously it takes a lot of time to create a quiz like this, but we believe this time is well invested because then it frees up the time during the course itself for the lecturer to deal with the kind of a more open-ended tasks, more creative tasks, when you have to actually engage with the new content produced by the students. So that's why those quizzes were built into the unit or the book early on, and then with as the unit progresses, then there are more and more forums, reflective forums, discussion forums, and collaborative work. We use wikis for collaboration, but we also use Google Docs. This is, I mean, I've got a personal preference for Google Docs, and basically, once upon a time I ran out of time and I decided to use a Google Doc instead of a wiki. I find them more flexible. But then, funnily enough, students liked them so much that they started creating collaborative Google Docs themselves and sharing with each other and with the lecturers as well. So maybe that's something to consider. I know that there are security issues around Google Drive, but still, in terms of the flexibility and accessibility, I think they work better than the Moodle wikis. And we also use Big Blue Button. We admit, and the reason being that at the time when we got to know that the course is running, that was the software we were, or the lecturers were kind of most familiar with, and we thought that experimenting with new software is just too much of a risk. But we are aware of the kind of maybe weaknesses. And in the next iteration of the course, we will move on to probably to Skype for Business. Having said that, Big Blue Button worked for us well, and there were some teething problems. Thanks to John for being patient and assisting our students who sounded like the voice got, I don't know, completely distorted. And on top of that, we also paid attention to the, as I said, to the visual integrity of the course, and we made sure that the layout was consistent. So we had those buttons kind of to maybe make the course resemble social networking sites, and then every unit followed the same structure with the book at the top, and then quick links to all the forums and wikis the students were supposed to use in order to interact with the content with each other. We also had the tick boxes for the completion of the tasks. Initially, we only had the tick box for the milestone activity, but then the students requested, they said that they want tick boxes because they want to track the progress. So we added them. We were quite flexible in that. We also tried to kind of visualize the course, so added Creative Commons licensed images to each of the units to add a little bit of a visual twist and make it look more attractive. And now the induction unit. We thought that it's very important to spend or to have an extra week prior to the start of the course in order for the students to get to know each other and the tutors, and to get to know the course, and also to get to know the technologies. So this is what the course looks like, the induction unit looks like. And I must say that it was a very good decision because we had quite a few latecomers. So while that week was on, the students were still going through the process of registration. So that meant when the first week started, everybody was already on, and there was no kind of faffing around trying to get people online, etc., etc. And again, as I mentioned earlier, we used we don't have that. We used that Padlet activity for the introductions, and again, that was a good choice because those students who couldn't register or weren't registered in week 0, they could still access that activity because it was, outside the VLE. So we could just send the link, and they weren't missing out on anything that was going on the course. And we also tried to build the induction in such a way that all the major technologies that were to be used throughout the course were used during that week as well. So this was in order to make the technologies kind of then transparent, so they were not paying attention to how to post, how to reply, how to contribute to a wiki, but they could really engage with the content and with each other. Oh, sorry.
So as I said, we had a weekly structure. We did open units early. In the induction week, we were planning to kind of finish on Friday, Saturday, start Monday, and some said, oh, can we look ahead? So we opened the unit, but we did the announcement opening for the week on a Monday, flagging up specific things they had to do, when they might need to work in groups. We worked out, as Anna said earlier, we are managing our present, so we started midweek summarising key points that had come through forums, points for them still to discuss. And at the end of the week, particularly after live rooms and after milestone tasks, summarised key points there. It was all trying to facilitate discussions and collaboration and encouraging peer learning. Okay. We did give feedback. Some of it's embedded in tasks, some of it was embedded in the milestones activities that we're doing. So for example, this one shows adding in comments to work they've done. This one was formative feedback during the week. They'd started doing as a group some work and just added comments in there and questions. Okay. We are still at the evaluation and very early evaluation, but this is some of the things that we found. We were really quite excited. We did have a fantastic group, and we hope they will continue as well in the future. But we found that we actually knew more about a lot of them, but we got more insights to what they were thinking. Although we saw the students every week on the face-to-face, we had one seminar, and you kind of know what this group here is saying when you're near them, but not what the rest of them were doing. We had a lot more insight to what was going on, what we needed to respond to. Some were less present. I'm quite interested in finding more about them because we could see they're engaged from their activity log and they're doing their assignments and they're doing very well. They're fine. I'm just quite interested in what they're doing. Okay, we did wonder what to do. They were saying, oh, someone's answered all the questions, by Tuesday, or done their posting. What do we do? So we scratched our head a bit. And we thought of some ways, some of it was getting them to ask others questions and then summarising. Okay. We started with a Padlet and we wanted to close the group. When you're face-to-face, you can say goodbye to everyone. When you're online, we thought, oh, where does it go? So we had something at the end where we said, can you put up your reflections? Can you take something you can take with you, but your reflections on the online experience? And looking through these this week, this is what we've seen. And I have obviously cherry-picked to go through, but there was talk about the scaffolding and support and how well supported they felt through the course. You can read. A very, very strong theme was about collaboration and interaction and how they felt part of a group. They liked sharing ideas. They worked in different contexts, so there was a lot of sharing and exchange of information there. Okay. There was, on the downside for some didn't participate much and opted out. They were doing work, we know, in the background, but they didn't have to do everything. There was a hard core of 6 that did everything all the time, and other people came in and out. Okay. That was one of the hardcore ones. Okay. But they're also engaging with the content. This is our ideas. We want to do more evaluation, we'll modify the course, and we would like to develop an applied practitioner focus one. I'm sorry, I've forgotten the person's name who talked this morning about the recording, but that would involve people recording themselves teaching and us doing some work on that. Okay, I'm done. Okay, thank you. Sorry.